Hello everyone, Ron Johnson here from L.T.L Tutoring Central. And if you're looking for tips and strategies to help with your learning, you are in the right place. In this little video, I'm going to be talking about two types of figurative language, the simile and the metaphor. And that's because they are related. They both compare items or things that are generally unrelated, but there is a point of comparison that can clarify your meaning. Or in other words, it can help your reader see more clearly or more vividly the idea that you're trying to express. Now, there is a difference between a simile and a metaphor, but it's not a huge difference. A simile uses like or as to compare two things. I should say a simile uses the word like or the word as to compare two things, and a metaphor does not. And when I give you a couple of examples, you will see how this works. Also, I wrote a blog on the topic, so check out the link below if you want to read the blog. There's a couple of different examples there and a little bit of different information that might be helpful. And for some people, text is better than video. Others, video is better than text. So, try them out. Try them both out. Also, I'll leave a link to the website. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave them. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave them below, or you can check out the website and contact me through my email. Of course, I offer personalized lessons. I also have some online courses, and I also teach in person at the big table behind me here if you are local. Now, let's have a look at a couple of examples because I think that will make it clearer the difference between a simile and a metaphor and exactly how do these work in terms of figurative language. So, a metaphor could be something like, he is a peacock, meaning, and if you know what a peacock is, and this is important, you should always try to use items, things that people will know, people will be able to see. If it's something too esoteric, if it's something too random, they won't actually be able to picture your metaphor or your simile. So that doesn't help. So you have to make sure they know. But a lot of people know what a peacock is. It has that big fan of beautiful feathers. And if I say he is a peacock, then most people would understand that he maybe struts around and that he really likes the way he looks or shows off the way he looks, something like that. This can also be used as a simile. So you could say something like, he looks like a peacock with the feathers in his hat. Now this is, that makes sense, of course, especially with the feathers in his hat, but now we're using the word like. He looks like a peacock. Or you could say he acts like a peacock. Now we've created a simile using the same two items. And there are two parts to metaphors and similes. Well, they can actually be broken into more parts, but the two main parts are the tenor and the vehicle. So the tenor is the original. So he, and the vehicle is peacock. That's what we are drawing the attributes from the peacock to describe him, or he in this case. Another, let me see, I'm just looking at my examples, excuse me. Those sisters are like two peas in a pod. So there's a simile because we have the word like. And those two sisters would be the tenor, and the vehicle are peas in a pod. So if you can picture peas in a pod, they're very, very close together. So this means that the sisters are very close to one another. And it's an expressive way of saying, we could just say the two sisters are very close, but this is a more expressive way, a more visual way for the reader to understand your meaning. You can also say something like, this place is a zoo. Now there's a metaphor because we don't have the word like or as to compare this place, the tenor, to a zoo, the vehicle. But we get the impression, if you've ever been to a zoo, it's usually very busy. There's a lot of wild animals there and a lot of noise. And so generally this means that this place, whatever it is, might be a party, someone's house, it might be a school, I don't know. And it's probably very loud, very busy. Maybe people are acting up. So it's like a zoo. Or it is a zoo, sorry. But we could say it's like a zoo as well. But I said this place is a zoo. Thomas was a fish out of water at his new school. So there we have a metaphor. Again, we don't have like or as. And a fish out of water. Obviously, if you've ever seen a fish out of water, or just think of a fish out of water, they're not going to be very comfortable. They're not going to be very happy. So this gives us a very clear impression of how Thomas feels within his new school. He feels like he's completely out of place. He's not where he should be at this point. You can also say he felt like a fish out of water, and that would be the simile version because we're saying he felt like a fish. And of course, excuse me, he would be the tenor, and the fish out of the water would be the vehicle, giving us the impression or giving the attributes to how he feels at his new school. So I hope that this clarifies a little bit the difference between simile and metaphor. But what's probably more important than the difference between the two of them is recognizing that you can use similes and metaphors to make your writing more expressive, more vivid, more lively, and to help the reader visualize what you're trying to portray. Now, it is more useful, all figurative language is more useful probably in fiction or creative writing. However, many metaphors and similes are so common these days that they are in newspaper articles, magazine articles. They are everywhere. So even academic papers will have some very common metaphors or similes. In fact, there are some that are have become so common that we don't really see them or read them as metaphor or simile anymore. Now, if English is not your first language, you might. And I had that experience more than once when I'm teaching students for whom English is not their first language, and they'll come to me with a news item or a magazine article or something online and say, well, what does this mean? It doesn't make sense. And it's similar to idioms. In fact, sometimes they can be interchanged in a way. The meaning is not literal, right? As our last example, Thomas is not actually a fish. We're not saying that Thomas is a fish. So if you didn't understand why this expression was being used, or maybe you didn't understand the tenor, or more likely the vehicle, then it wouldn't make any sense to you because on a literal level it doesn't make sense. But some have become so common that we automatically, we don't even recognize them. And I often would look and say, oh, wait a minute, why does that not make sense to you? And then I had to think about it because we use it so often. We've just become accustomed to metaphors and similes. All right. It's Ron Johnson from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Have fun using similes and metaphors. Maybe look for some in the next article you read. See if you can find some. Similes are easier to find in a way because you can look for the word as or like. Now, not every time you see those words is it going to be a simile, but it's a bit of a key, and then you can look at the sentence and say, are they comparing two things that are dissimilar in most ways, but very similar in one way? And that is probably a simile. And then you can check to see if you can find some metaphors as well. Ron Johnson from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Keep writing, keep having fun, and maybe try using a simile or metaphor in the next thing you write. Just be careful with academic papers. You can only use ones that really fit with your topic. Bye-bye for now.